We're going to move on to talking about cogent arguments. Arguments that make the conclusion reasonable but don't guarantee its truth. But before that, it's worth having a quick review of the concepts that we've been over so far. We've talked about an argument being a set of statements that are intended to provide reasons or evidence for, justify, or logically lead to the belief in another statement. The conclusion of the argument is the statement that's supposed to be established, made reasonable, made evident, and the premises are the reasons, the statements of the reasons supporting the conclusion. Now we see that we know that a good argument, or we saw that a good argument has two characteristics. One, it has a good connection between the premises and the conclusion, which we've called well-formed, because we know something has to do with the form or the pattern of argument. So we said it was valid and good premises. That is, and when we said good, so far we meant true premises, right? So that we saw that an argument is sound, which is another way of saying good argument, if and only if two things happen. One, it's valid, and secondly, all of its premises are true. And remember, just to make sure we understand, the idea of validity was that it has something to do with the pattern of the argument, the logical pattern or the logical form. And a valid argument, when you have the good connection, is such that it's impossible for any argument that has that logical form to have true premises and a false conclusion. Right? So any argument of that same pattern, if you start with true premises, you're going to end up with a true conclusion. You can't possibly end up with a false conclusion if it is valid. And just quickly reviewing the major patterns, the ones that were really difficult, we had three in the predicate logic and three analogous ones in the propositional logic. We had the direct inferences, all A's are B's, X is an A, therefore X is a B. In predicate logic, in propositional logic, if P then Q, P, therefore Q. Had all A's or B's, X is not an A, therefore X is not a B. And that was in predicate logic. In propositional logic, you had this indirect inference, that is modus tollens. If P then Q, not P, therefore not Q. Let me make sure I said this right. If P then Q, not Q, therefore not P. Indirectly, you're going through a negation. And then we had the chained inferences, all A's are B's, all B's are C's, therefore all A's are C's. If P then Q, if Q then R, therefore if P then R, the chained inference, hypothetical syllogism. Now there were a couple of other inferences that we see on the page. No A's or B's, X is an A, therefore X is not a B. That was a good one. We went over disjunctive syllogism. Either one thing is true or the other. One isn't true, therefore the other. And there were a few others. But in general, you're getting, really, if we're looking at it, most of our arguments follow six patterns. That probably could give you 90, wouldn't be surprised if that gives you 90% of the arguments, or maybe 95%, maybe even 98% of the arguments that you encounter are of these patterns.